Okay, so today we're going to look at Out Out by Robert Frost. We're moving on to poetry. You've done a couple of comprehensions. So we're going back to poetry. We're going to look at a Frost poem today. He's simply telling a story about a young boy who is cutting wood. He's very, very young. He's cutting wood. He's doing a man's job and an accident occurs. Okay, the title of the poem is called Out Out and it comes from Macbeth, Shakespeare play Macbeth, where he talks about out, out, brief candle. Candle symbolic of the fragility of life, and this poem in many ways is also about how fragile life can be. I'm just going to read through it. I'm going to explain some of the poetic devices and some of the imagery. I'm going to give you questions at the end. The questions will also be up in Google Classroom for you to look at. Okay, so it's not hard work, you just need to listen, pay attention, do the questions. Okay. The buzzsaw snarled and rattled in the yard. So a buzzsaw, saw for cutting wood. Now the fact it snarled and rattled, you'll know from our poetic devices this is onomatopoeia. Okay, you can hear the snarling, you can hear the rattling. Okay, you can also, there's a sense of foreshadowing, like it's a kind of an angry saw. There's a sense of personification here as well, that the saw is a person. It's an angry person looking to do damage. And made dust and dropped stove-length sticks of wood. Sweet scented stuff when the breeze drew across it. Okay, you've got your sibilants here with your repetition of S's, and he's hitting our senses here with this poetry. And from there, those that lifted eyes could count 5 mountain ranges, one behind the other, under the sunset far into Vermont. So you get the image there of 5 mountain ranges, one behind the other, and a sunset in an American state. Okay. And the saw snarled and rattled, snarled and rattled. Again, we have onomatopoeia, and we also have repetition. Anyone who works at a saw, it is a repetitive work. It happens day after day, the same thing happening. So he's using the repetition. We also spoke of the personification. There's a sense of anger here with the saw. As it ran light or had to bear a load, and nothing happened. Day was all but done, so day was nearly done. They were just about to finish. Call it a day, I wish they might have said, to please the boy by giving him the half hour that a boy counts so much when saved from work. So there's a young boy at work, very, very young. This is back in the early 1900s when young men would have been out to work very, very young at 11 and 12. As soon as they were done with school, straight out to work. His sister stood beside them in her apron to tell them supper. Okay, first piece of dialogue we see. She just came out and told them supper. Okay, I'm just going to move this up a bit here. At the word, the saw, as if to prove saws knew what supper meant, leaped out of the boy's hand. Okay, that's personification there, as if the saw decided to jump out of the boy's hand, or seemed to leap. It was as if he had leaped. He must have given the hand. However it was, neither refused the meeting. Now, it doesn't give explicit imagery there, but we can sense that a hand and a saw met, and it went straight through. But the hand, the exclamation mark here, shows the horror that people were thinking about. The boy's first outcry was a rueful laugh as he swung toward them holding up the hand. Half an appeal, but half as if to keep the life from spilling. Now, anyone who's ever been involved in an accident, one of our first things we do is we unconsciously laugh and think that it's okay. We're looking for reassurance. He turns around and holds up his hand, an appeal as if to say, help me, but also to keep the life from spilling. Life here is used as a metaphor for the blood. Okay, his blood was running from his hand, but also, as you know, if the blood runs out, your life will go. Okay, then the boy saw all. So the boy realized how bad this situation was. Since he was old enough to know, big boy doing a man's work, though a child at heart. Okay, so you should have a kind of sense of empathy here for the young boy. He was doing a man's work. He wasn't probably able to do the work, but he had to do it, and he ended up getting hurt. He saw all spoiled. He knew his hand was in serious danger, and look how he reacts. Don't let him cut my hand off. The doctor, when he comes, don't let him, sister. So he's appealing to his sister not to let the doctor cut his hand off. But the hand was gone already. The doctor put him in the dark of either. Now, this is a type of kind of an anesthetic in the olden days to put people to sleep, to save them from pain. He lay and puffed his lips out with his breath. And then the watcher at his pulse took fright. Again, back then, in today's world, we have machines in hospitals that takes our pulse, and I'm sure you've seen a film where you hear the beep, beep, beep to show that the pulse is getting low. Here, there was a watcher with their hand, or with their finger on his hand, making sure his pulse was okay. But he took fright, which suggests things aren't good. No one believed. They listened at his heart. Little, less, nothing. An absolutely brilliant line. 3 words to describe the death of someone. A little heartbeat, a less of a heartbeat, and nothing. And that ended it. Okay, very matter of fact here. That ended it. Okay, so everything was over. He had died. No more to build on there. And they, since they were not the one dead, turned to their affairs. So the men went back to work because it wasn't them. Now, that may seem very harsh, but it's Frost trying to show here that when you lose someone that you love, you want the world to stop, but it doesn't. The world will keep on turning. Okay, so that's it explained. I'm going to click in now to the questions that you have to do for tonight. Okay, they should come up here. So out questions. These will also be up in Google Classroom. Explain what happened in the poem. So simply tell me what happens in the poem. What does the ending of the poem suggest about life and how people react to death? So the fact that the men weren't affected by the death, what does it show? Do you have sympathy with the boy? No, you should really have sympathy for him, but why do you have sympathy? Pick an image that stood out for you from the poem and explain why it stood out. Okay, so one image could be anything from the poem that stood out. And highlight 2 poetic devices used in the poem. Now, if you're smart, you'll listen back through the video. I've highlighted a couple of poetic devices, so write them down and explain the effect these poetic devices have. Anyone, any problems, email me. Thank you.